Hey guys, so we are just going to jump into another brief typography thing using the Swiss style. Recall a lot of what we're doing is going to be talking about how like the Swiss style is sort of different from other styles here, much like we've been doing with Art Deco and stuff. One of the main features of the international typography style is that we're going to be making sure we're focusing on alignment, and in many ways we're going to be basing our whole design on working within a grid. So I'm going to go ahead and press create for a letter, like a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper here. And we're going to talk about grids. Now, we've talked about grids before when we used grids, like, say, for instance, to create very symmetrical designs when it came to Art Deco. If you hold down Control and press the semicolon button, it's like here, or the apostrophe button, where are we at? Okay, so the apostrophe, Control apostrophe, that brings up just your normal grid. I think each one of these units is sort of set when you start your image. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to create a grid based off of a well-known sequence of numbers called the Fibonacci sequence. If you don't know what the Fibonacci sequence is, it's basically the mathematical basis for the golden ratio. Essentially what it is you have a series of numbers where you take one number and then you add it to the previous number. So usually it starts off with 1 and then it has another 1. Let me just real quick size this up so I can show this to you guys. So you take 1 and you add 1 to it, and then you get 2, right? And then you add up the previous two numbers. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 5 is 13, 13 plus 8 is 21, right? So we might not use all these numbers here, but this is essentially the basis of the golden ratio, that we're going to take the previous two numbers and we're going to double them. So a lot of interesting things happen when you design based off of this. So I'm going to get my rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to draw a randomly sized sort of skinny rectangle here. And I'm just going to color it something a little bit different. Let's say color it, say for instance, like, well, I don't know, blue. And I'll put a stroke on here just so I can kind of see what's what. I'll put a stroke on there so I can distinguish between them. So with my move tool here, obviously this works the same way with Gravit and Illustrator. I'm going to just pull this over. I'll drag it until it's lined up. Hold down Shift. Let's line it right there. And then I'll just Control D until it goes across the entire page. All right, there you go. I'll just delete this last one. Okay, so with that being said, I've got my 1 right here. So I'm just going to separate this off one sequence number at a time, right? So I've got 1. So I'm just going to nudge this down a little bit. I'll get another 1. So I'll select everything except for 1. Okay, and then I want 2, so I'll just deselect these two. Then I want 3, so select 3 here. 1, 2, 3. Drag these down. Then I want 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll drag these guys down. And then I want 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'll just delete the rest of these, right? So we can use this ratio just along with the whole paper. So we'll just grab everything here. We don't really have to do anything in terms of like shape building here. We'll just keep them the same size they are. I'll just scale this up until it matches the edge here. And so now we're going to design a grid based off this. Let me just get rid of that right there. And I'll just group this together for now, just so I don't have to lose anything here. And just get your rulers going, right? Make sure your rulers are available. With Gravit, it's just like you have to go to Canvas to make sure your rulers are visible. It's probably defaulted there. With this, obviously it's Control R. And so what we'll do is we'll go to make sure it's snapping here. So it's just snap to point. That's fine. Okay, here we go. I'll just snap this over here. Just line that up there, and just put the guides on the paths between your different groups here. And I'll put a guide on the edge of the canvas as well. Okay, all right, so we've got that. And then what we'll do is you can kind of determine the way you want to do this. I'm just going to select all this right here, and then I'll just rotate this 90 degrees. And you can either place it down here at the bottom like this, or you can place it, you know, any which way you want. But I'll place the larger rectangle on the bottom. You can obviously do it the opposite way if you wanted to. But I'll just do the same thing. I'll just drag up a guide down to the bottom. Make sure it's actually at the bottom. Okay, and then once again, we'll just drag this down. Guides along here. One, and then I'll take this shape here and I'll just rotate it 180 degrees. So we can kind of repeat that 1, 1 there. 1, 1, 2, and then we'll have this hanging out here at the top. Okay, so again, this once I get rid of this, you can kind of see this this grid hanging out here. So this is by itself not much to look at here, but what we can do with this is we can start creating little bits of graphics, and we can put little bits of typography in there. And then from there, we can see kind of how we can make things relate to each other. So the first thing we'll do, I'm going to make this black for now. We'll take off the stroke, make this fill black. So from here, what we can do is we can just start adding in little graphic elements. And the first one you put down is just going to be totally random. So just wherever you feel like putting it down, I'll just put one down right here. It should snap to it. If you don't see that, you can just go to view, snap to, not this, in this case, not grid, just snap to point. But then from there, everything that you put in should be kind of aligned either vertically or horizontally. Now, you don't have to do one-to-one with each one of these little grid lines, but what you can do is you can sort of like, you know, pull these together like so, you know, and like, you know, kind of go over multiple grid lines here. But whichever way you do, you want to make sure at some point it's going to be related to one or the other. So for instance, this one could be just, you know, pull down like that. Maybe I'll just add another one down here. So this one's lined up. I'll just pop in this one right here. Kind of extend this out. And if it'll let me. Okay. And maybe one more. I don't know why, maybe an odd number might make it better. Just maybe one right here, maybe one going across the top. I have it lined up with the. Okay, and so so taking a look at this right here, you know, everything's kind of like, you know, kind of looks weird with the grid here. But if I take off the guides, you can kind of see that this is this by itself here looks kind of an interesting sort of a dynamic little layout here. We've got this sort of you know, all these little pieces here are kind of interacting with one another in some form or fashion and stuff. And by virtue of this, of the sizes we've placed in a grid, you know, it doesn't automatically equal a good-looking design, but it's just a basis, but from which you can start. So for instance, with this, like, you know, maybe I'm starting here. I can just go from here and maybe start adding in some type. So what I could do up here is I could maybe add in a text box, and I'll just keep a text box. How about this? What I'll do is I'll down here, maybe I'll just move this. I'll move this down to the bottom. And I'll just size this up to where it's kind of filling the grid there. And I'll take my text box and I'll just grab this and I'll just make a little text box right like that. And what we'll do is make sure it's lined to the left here, and we'll change it to some Swiss style looking image. What was that one he had yesterday? It was the grotesque. Can I look at grotesque? Grotesque. Berthold accidents grotesque bold. So you can kind of use that if you decide to use that one. Obviously, you can use a different one. I'll put that over there, and then maybe I'll just make another one up this way. I'll just I'll make another text box, kind of like hanging out right here, and I'll just make it really big. I'll call it Swiss style typography, and just make it real big to size it up to be the size of this text box down here. That's probably good. Okay, and then from there we can just choose different colors that we can use. If you wanted to go through here, if you wanted to find yourself a new what do you call it, palette here. I might actually extend this out to be across there. So from here you can just go one by one and just say, for instance, well, I don't know, we'll make this red. Maybe I'll make this one blue. Maybe I'll keep that one black. I'll make this red again. Or maybe I'll make it like, I don't know, yellow. I'll keep this one like this one like blue again. All right, so take off the grid here, and then we've got this little thing here. I might just give myself a little bit of room here. Just a little bit of padding. All right, and there we go. So we've got this little design that's been based off of this grid we created. Now, one thing you might have seen before is when you see the Swiss style design on a grid and you know, seeing it designed to where it's on the grid, but then for whatever reason they decide to take it and then they decide to, let me just group this together, rotate it all like say 45 degrees or so, and then just extend it to where it's all on the same, you know, kind of artboard. Just real quick, I'll just take this. X this out, cancel. Extend this out here, the same thing. Extend this out here. There's all that. We just pull this in. And so now we have the same deal. And so when we export this, what's neat about this, once I export this, it's going to cut everything off. So they just export for screens. Obviously, you don't have to turn, you can keep it totally, you know, the way it was before. Let's call this Swiss style 2. And as a JPEG, export artboard here. And then you can see it, Swiss style 2. You can kind of see what's happening here. So this is essentially, you know, designing on a grid. Obviously, yours should not look the same way that mine does. Yours should look a little bit different. But there you go. Right. This is how we can start off with a neat little grid to proportionalize our different designs, our different graphic elements, and just push things to the side. And using the right font, obviously, can make it seem really kind of like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Archetypal or sort of exemplified by this certain style. All right, cool. Well, can't wait to see you guys produce. See y'all in class.